Hi, and welcome to the Pure YouTube channel and Pure Talk Season 6. And today I am delighted to be joined by artist Susan D'Souza. I have chatted to Susan before, and there is a video in a previous Art 360, I think, of me chatting to Susan. So do go back and have a look at that if you're interested in, when you're listening to this and you're interested to find out more. What we'll do is we'll just do a little bit of a context for those who haven't watched that video, and I'll get Susan just to tell us a bit about herself, so where you grew up and your background, etc. Susan.
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. I'm Susan D'Souza. I'm a textile artist, and well, it began really for me from quite an early age. I've always loved making things with fibre and fabric, and I went to art college in Yorkshire, and then went on to do a degree in textile design, which was knit, print, and weave. And yeah, I've got some really good memories of well, particularly inspirational times, particularly on my art college year, of having a tutor who was a weave tutor who took us up onto Ilkley Moor to make things outdoors. And
Wow.
so I kind of loved dyeing, loved weaving, loved painting, all sorts of different things. And then from my degree, I had a placement with Marks and Spencers. So I had a year out where I worked in Paris with a trend prediction company and freelance knitwear. And then I came back from that to work the next 7 years as a buyer for Marks and Spencers. So I've had that sort of more fashion clothing side of textiles in my background, in my professional background. Um, and
I didn't know you could do knitting as part of a degree. That's
yeah, absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah, there's still a specialism on some courses. Yeah, some of the courses still do that. Machine knitting mainly. But you know, so many things are knitted. Our
Yeah,
underwear is knitted.
yeah, of course. Did you do crochet and other, like,
Not so much.
textile things?
No, I didn't. I wasn't. It was quite an industrial professional course I was on, so we didn't do so much of the handcrafted work. But knit was the thing I specialised in at that stage, and it was partly working with yarn, working with the colours that I really enjoyed. Um,
Did you
but
grow up doing that kind of thing? Because I know I grew up with a mother who sewed all my own clothes.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And my Scottish grandmothers and my aunt, they all knitted and yeah, did sort of embroidery and that kind of thing. So yes, I kind of grew up doing that, definitely.
And at school, did they do that? Did you do stitch and sewing at school?
Yeah, I do remember. I remember doing all sorts of crafty things, some of which sadly are not taught anymore in primary schools. But I remembered making potato prints and doing yeah, sort of it stitching into bits of paper and in fact we had one very creative teacher in primary school, and we turned the whole of our porter cabin into the body of a whale and did a
Wow.
whale campaign. So back in the 70s, when I think the curriculum wasn't quite so prescribed. So yeah, I think that had an influence as well.
When you start making whales, we'll understand where that came from. So you now teach, don't you?
I do, yeah. So I left London and moved to Brighton. I was still working in London, but then decided to retrain as an art teacher or textile teacher. And I did a PGCE at that stage and just felt like I wanted to be back in a more creative environment. So I made that transition to teaching about over 20 years ago. So I've been teaching now for about 20 years, um,
Wow.
and always in college, sort of further education colleges, on a mixture of 16 to 19 courses and then degree courses. So yeah, and I've really, I love teaching, and it's been great. And I worked through uh, A level BTECs, level 1, level 2 teaching, art foundation, and then started running a fashion and textile degree at West Kent College. And then I moved down to Worthing. And for the last 3 years, I've been teaching at Northbrook College. I run the textile degree there.
And you
Um,
also teach outside of that formal environment, don't you? So you do dyeing and other natural dyeing
yeah.
teaching at Sussex Prairie Gardens and Ditchling. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I've always carried on learning, and I've kind of gone to classes and courses throughout my life to sort of expand my interest in textiles, particularly. And yeah, the two things that I've focused on, I suppose, in the last 5 years or so have been batik, and I'm a member of the Batik Guild now. But I started by going to classes with someone called Rosie Robinson, who's an amazing batik tutor, and learned about hand painting with dye and layering it up with hot wax. And it's just a process that's quite unpredictable, uh, but really interesting. There's a lot of problem solving, and something about that combination appeals to me. Um, and then the thing that I became involved in around 2019 was that I applied for a course in natural dyeing at Ditchling Museum of Art and Craft. And they were taking 12 people on to do a year of learning about natural dyeing a day a month with Jenny Dean, who's a really experienced and talented and incredible natural dyeing expert. And through that, I've continued meeting with a group of artists, teachers, technicians, people who work in sustainability, and we meet at Ditchling Museum of Art and Craft a few times a year, and skill share and do things together to sort of grow our knowledge. And it's been really interesting in the last sort of 3 years to see how natural dyeing has become more a subject that people are interested in, and that small scale companies are embracing again as an alternative way to create colour more sustainably. It's quite a complex subject. You can naturally dye quite quickly with things, but there's an awful lot to learn. So I'm definitely still learning about that.
Didn't you say to me you'd started a natural dyeing garden at the college?
Yes, yeah, that's been really fun to sort of bring that interest into my teaching and my lecturing side of things. And I had the opportunity to apply for some Make Your Campus Greener funding, and so applied to have some raised wooden planters. And with the students, we've created a small natural dye garden. And we had our first harvest from that at the beginning of the autumn term. And we did some solar dye jars working with sort of deadhead flowers we collected. We've been growing madder and chopping up the roots, which makes a really nice, rich, sort of reddy brown colour. It's a very ancient dye. We do indigo dyeing. We're growing some woad. We haven't harvested that yet, but that's on the way.
Can you
And
get quite a good range of colours from natural dyeing?
you really can. Yeah, it's surprising. People sort of associate it with kind of sludgy browns and greens, but yeah, I've actually got something. I think I can get it. I mean, this is don't know how well it will show on the screen, but that's a sampler of a lot of the colours that we created
Wow.
on the year that I did the course. So um,
Gosh, that is a real range, isn't it? And tonally,
mm,
and that looks like it's on like pieces of silk as well. So
yeah. Some of them are on silk, some are on silk velvets, some linen, some cotton
Mm.
there. But yeah, you really can create a whole spectrum of colour. Um, um, I've started to create my own paints with natural dye as well. Well, started to. I've been doing that for a few years now, and some
Mm.
of the workshops I'm teaching are batik with natural dye. And I just, yeah, really enjoy the whole process. I've always liked plants and growing things, and I'm a slightly lazy natural dyer. I do work with natural dye extracts, which are like powders that you can buy as well, so that you can create a whole palette of colours to work with.
Are
Uh,
they hard? Are they fixed? You know, they don't run, natural dyes. How do you fix them to so they don't run?
yeah, well, you do need some dyes you don't need to fix and they naturally bond with fibre, but some you need a mordant, and there's a whole range of different things you can use as mordant. But you start to get to know which dyes have the best light fastness and wash
Mm.
fastness. And there are some like indigo, weld, and madder that they found traces of in ancient Egyptian tombs, and you can still see a bit of the colour. So, when they're used properly and not left out in the sunshine the whole time, then that they do last a very long time.
Mm.
And we forget.
I sound like I know what I'm talking about. I have absolutely no idea, but I know that I'd run things in a washing machine. So
Yeah,
I do know that's a thing.
yeah, absolutely. No, that can happen with regular dyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes,
I think we forget that until about 1860, everything was naturally dyed. So it was done on quite an industrial scale. Uh,
mm,
so there are ways of making them quite fast, but
mm,
you do get more variation in the colour. And that's something that's to be embraced about natural dyeing.
yeah.
Um,
And presumably as well, they're affected by UV.
Um, y- I well, I think any textile is affected by light,
Mm,
so yourself, if you've got curtains and they're in direct sunlight over many
mm,
years, then there will be a little bit of fading. So
mm.
yeah, light
Yeah,
light does affect them, some more than others.
yeah. And you've done some workshops at Sussex Prairie Gardens as well, I mentioned earlier. That's a lovely location. And they have lots of flowers there.
Yeah, it's really beautiful there, and I first worked with them in about 2016 as part of a group of artists in residence, including Ali Rabjon, who's a pure member, and
Mm,
um, we I worked there sort of visiting every month for a year to create a body of work that I exhibited there. And ever since then, I've done workshops in the summer, just a few workshops each summer, because it's somewhere I really enjoy teaching. And they've
mm.
got beautiful teaching workshop room that's got patio doors out into the garden. And so I'm doing a 1 or 2 day batik workshop this August, which is on their website.
It's on their website, not on your website.
Yeah, not on mine yet. I need to put it on there.
You need to put it on there. Shall we just do a quick screen? We're just going to do a quick screen share of your website. There you are. So people will know. And normally this would be on your calendar, I'm presuming.
Yes, that's right. You can probably see the workshop from last year on my calendar.
Yeah.
But
So we've got yes, online talk and forthcoming. Oh, you put the Furl Garden show on.
yes, yes,
So
I'm
you're doing that, aren't you, in a couple of
there in
weeks?
weekend after next. Yeah.
Yes, and you've got the International Year of Batik on there. So you're not too, I'm not going to have too much of a go at you. And you've got your artist residency on there as well. So that's good. And then you've got old past events on there.
Oh, that
So
was last year's workshop. I can just see that came up at the bottom at Sussex Prairies, but
there you are.
I'll put the
Yes.
new one on.
Yeah, good go. Well done. Yes. So this is the private view for your artist residency that you've been making work for the last 6 months or so, and that open, although the private view is on the 17th of May, the actual exhibition opens on the 5th of May, doesn't it?
That's right.
That's
Yes,
correct, isn't it?
yeah, that pinkish one is, I think, the uh, one for the,
This
yeah,
one, yeah.
yes, that's right. 5th of May to the 23rd, isn't it, of
Yeah,
June?
23rd of June.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Mm.
So tell us about how you've made the work. I know you came and stayed at the hotel at the end of last year, didn't you? So tell us about the process of making the work for this residency exhibition.
Yeah, so the residency opportunity enabled me to spend some time in the hotel, and I was thinking initially of seeing what plants they had to maybe do some natural dyeing because they've got quite extensive grounds there.
Mm,
But when I was there, I realised it was much more about the trees, and they've got a lot of quite ancient trees there, and they've got some very large trees, and that they really dominate
mm,
the gardens.
mm,
Um, and I realised that it's a subject I've returned to over the years quite often, and started reading a bit more about symbolism of trees, and particularly things like oak and yew, and laurel, that have been around in sort of ancient Greek history, and lots of different religions have used them as symbolic, meaningful things, in their culture. And yeah, I just became quite interested in studying trees a bit more, and thinking about how constant they are through human life,
mm.
really. And their relevance today, for us, is really great as well, with all that's happening with climate change there, so important in our environment. So I took lots of photographs while I was there, and then my process is very often to start with photographs, and then to home in on particular images, and start to break down how I'm going to translate that into sort of layers. I work in a kind of textile collage way. Some of my pieces, so cutting applique and then stitching into them, and others are batik. And
Do you have any examples you can show us around you?
ah, you know what? Most of them are at the picture framers at the moment,
Yes.
but I've got a few here. Let's see. Um, how well you can see that one.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Those are
Don't,
not Bannatyne's trees. That was actually somewhere on the South Downs. But the bottom section of that is hand painted with natural dyes and batik. So some of the kind of pale bits are wax, that's been ironed out. And then the trees are machine embroidered. And it's layered onto a piece of indigo dyed fabric at the top. So I'm just stitching that onto a backing cloth, and then that will be framed. Um, I've got another one here I can show you. It's framed. Um,
oh,
do a
that's
bit of
beautiful.
reflection on that one, but
Mm.
yeah, so quite a majority of my work is framed as 2D pieces. Some of the new ones are going to be float framed in a deeper frame.
Mm.
But yeah, quite, I think the majority for this exhibition are hand painted with natural dyes, or the pieces have been dyed using botanical dyes. So yeah.
And you like this layering process, so doing the batik and then doing some stitch and then applique. That's quite runs through most of your pieces in the methodology of the making.
Yeah, I think I think the layering is something I really enjoy, but trying not to be too just decorative with it. So it's either thinking about patterning or texture that I can see, and trying to kind of give a sense of that, sometimes in a semi-abstract way. Um, but yes, it's true. I think even though I have sometimes thought at certain points that I should probably specialize more in one thing, but I really like the contrast of, stitch is quite time consuming and slow, and gets you to slow down, but it's quite detailed. And with batik, you can be a lot freer, and you can work on a bigger scale. You can stand up while you're doing it, and I sort of like the contrast of those two things.
Yeah, and a lot you were saying you've been looking into the symbolism of the trees, and then you were just talking about the whole methodology of slowing down, it being quite a meditative process. Is that something that you've been working on to embed that into your practice, the more ritualistic way?
That's a really interesting question, and I think I would say yes. I think I've become more aware of how, for me, my textile work, and for others as well that I see in my teaching, um, the relationship of touching things and working with your hands and just having to slow down, is really therapeutic and beneficial, and just gives you time to sort of reflect as well.
Mm.
Um, so yes, I would say that has become a bigger part, and especially because I'm interested in sustainability, and I think one of the sort of main movements in sustainable textiles and fashion is about the need for us to find an alternative to fast fashion,
Mhm.
and the way things had gone in a sort of ever increasing frenzy, and really the way forward is going to be to sort of stop and reflect on how we work with what we have, and just slow down and do things that are better quality and are more meaningful, and that people will treasure and want to keep, rather than it being too throwaway.
Do you use recycled fabrics then in your work as well?
Some of it I do, and the others some of it I buy, but I'm quite conscious about buying linen, or buying organic cotton, or thinking, knowing where it's come from.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't used to, and I've got older pieces that have got a real mixture of fabrics in there.
Mm.
Um, but I think again, it's something I've become more conscious of. Um, and I think when I started with textiles, I just loved the colours and the materials, and you want everything in there. And as I've refined my practice, I think you start to consider more carefully all your decisions and your
Yeah,
choice of materials.
yeah, absolutely. So the exhibition that you're going to be doing, the solo exhibition at Ballantyne, will it be a mixture of work in terms of size, and will it be a mixture of work in terms of the uh, story that you're telling? So will it be trees as well as plants? And I know you do a lot of landscapes as well. Will there be a mixture of that?
I think my intention at the moment is to have it predominantly a tree based, but it
Mhm.
will be from leaves and small details through to larger pieces. So I've got one series of five framed pieces that are going to be framed in oak really beautifully, and those are more close up details of tree bark and of leaves from some of the ancient trees. And well, I haven't talked about labeling, but I would like to bring in something about, the symbolism of each of those trees,
Yeah.
because I think that's quite important. And then other pieces, I've got one here that's a bigger piece. Oh, well, you can see that one. That one's actually
Oh,
quite
yeah.
large. So that is going to be backed onto something, and it's more of a hanging.
Yes.
So that one's actually quite a different piece of work for me. This is digitally printed from one of my photographs. It's actually from Bannatynes, from the lane near the hotel. And I don't know if you can see, there's a bit of embroidery in that section there, the sort of bright greens. So I've
Yes.
worked into it and embroidered some sections of that. Um,
Wow,
So
so you've had your photograph printed onto that fabric, or did you
yeah,
print it on yourself, or did you have someone
um,
do it for you?
I had someone do that. So that's printed onto linen, and
Hmm.
that was a company called Contrada who print onto a range of different fabrics. They'll print your own artwork or your photography, or whatever you
Mm.
work with.
Mm.
And
Oh,
it's
and then
something,
you've stitched into it.
yes, yeah, that's right. It's something I do a lot with my students, and many of them go down the digital route.
Mm.
Um, and digital printing is actually quite sustainable in that it doesn't use water.
Mm.
So one of the, screen printing, if it's done on a small scale, is fine, but if it's sort of mass production, there's a lot of water used in that process.
Mm.
So um, though you wouldn't think of it that way, digital printing is quite a sustainable process.
Yes, yeah, and you're not putting chemicals into the water, uh, into the water table. I don't know what the right terminology is,
Yeah.
but you're not releasing. So if you're using a lot of chemicals in screen printing, then that's got to go somewhere, hasn't it? And it's
Yes.
going to
Yeah.
go into the water courses and end up having to be processed somewhere. So yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the main issue with chemical dyeing. That uh, I think in the worst category of dyes, quite a high percentage doesn't bond with the fabric and ends up in the water. And
Mm.
it depends on what the laws are in the particular country about how that water is, well, how what the drainage system is and where it
Mm.
goes, whether it goes
Mm.
straight into rivers. Um,
Mm. Yes, that can't be good for us, can it? That can't be good
no.
for us. So as you say, digital printing from that perspective is very good because it's not using the water and it's not contaminating our water stream. So yeah. Oh, I can't wait. It looks fascinating. So you've got big pieces, small pieces, you've got these hangings.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else exciting?
Well, I think, I am going to bring some of my natural dye pieces, like the one I showed you, to
Yes.
explain the process a bit more and show some of the potential for
Mm.
natural dyeing. So I will have some of that there to explain that process.
Yeah, that'll be in the display case, won't it? We can put that
Yeah,
all in the display case.
yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I can't wait. I'm excited. And then you will be doing a workshop, but not until the end of the year. So we'll let people know when that is. But obviously, you've got your private view on the 17th. So everyone's welcome to come along to
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and if anyone would like to come, they're very welcome. And yeah, wants to, have a chance to, well, it'd be nice to meet people and talk about the work with them.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that it is also responding to the environment around the hotel as well, I think is fabulous. So I'm excited. I can't wait. Thank you so much, Susan. It's been really fascinating. I always enjoy talking to you. Your process is so gentle and it makes you feel very relaxed and calm. Just
Oh,
even hearing about it and hearing how you do it. So yes, I can't wait to see the gallery with all of this work in it. And I'm sure that anyone who comes along to see it will also really enjoy it. You said about the stories, I think we can do something with QR codes that we can do QR codes so people can go through to your website and read stories on the webs on their phones. So that'd be we can explore that.
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
definitely ways of telling the stories that we can make happen in the space. So yeah, anyone who's going along, look out for that. Look out for the QR codes. We'll definitely do something with a QR code.
Yeah, thank you and to Pure for giving me the opportunity to do this residency, because it is my first solo show and I'm really excited about that opportunity, and just to get to see a whole bunch of my work together in a room is going to be quite interesting because I haven't done that before.
It's a really important part of the process to be able to see all your work in one place at one time, and to stand back and really kind of consider it as a body of work.
Mm.
But really, we have to say thank you to Ballantyne, because Ballantyne are the ones who sponsor the exhibition and support the artist, and we're incredibly grateful for that. They support 4 solo shows a year doing this kind of thing, and I think it's brilliant. So no, we're very incredibly grateful to them for that. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing with us. And I'll just do a final quick share of your screen share of your website, because then people will know where to go if they're interested in finding out more. So there we go. That is your website, and I will bring you back to, my headphones are going berserk at the moment. There we go. So that's the home page.
Yeah, it's www.susandesouza.textileartist.com is my URL.
Brilliant. Thank you. Right, I'll stop that share now. There we are. Great. My headphones were playing up a little bit there. I don't know why they do that sometimes. Thank you. And I look forward to helping you set up your exhibition.
Exciting.